Well, I've actually retired 3 times, failed all 3 times, so I think I'm done.
What got you into, hey, I want to make this bigger and buy other practices?
It's just kind of who I am. I just stay busy all the time. I like to be busy. 2.5 weeks ago, I guess, we bought a practice with about 850 clients. The onboarding process is honestly going to be my biggest challenge by far.
The human element's not going away. The job's going to get more human.
With products like Juno and stuff that they have, now, the volume and the capacity is not as much a problem. It's getting the people on board.
What advice would you kind of give to those folks in that position as somebody who's growing quickly?
No matter what you do, you're going to be so afraid that you're going to mess something up and you're going to screw up some client stuff and all of that. And you are.
Today I've being joined by Rocky Lippold, who is always on the road, life on the road, and we'll hear more about that. But is calling him from Charlotte, you said, at the moment?
Just outside Charlotte, yeah.
Yep. And but yeah, Rocky's been with Freedom Accounting and Tax, got a long history in the tax world. And yeah, Rocky, why don't you start us with like a bit of your background? I know you got an interesting story in terms of having tried to retire once, but give the listeners just a bit of your information about you.
Yeah, I got started in the military, really, and nobody knew how to do taxes in the military, and I had an accounting degree, so I just started doing taxes for people and working with it there. So I was used to doing it everywhere, you know what I mean? And so when I retired and got out, I found a tax firm, I guess, that had like three locations, but she only went to 2 of the locations twice a year, and it was just go set up, do taxes, and come back. So I kind of got into that mode right off the first, and that was about 16 years ago, I believe, full time doing taxes and accounting and stuff. We did that for several years, and then I sold it to the guy who I had that was kind of my lead man. And we kept about 50 or 75 clients, and we moved to Florida for about 2 years. And then we went full-time RV for 5 years. So we had some issues that caused health issues, stuff like that. We ended up, my wife wanted to settle back down in one location so she could go to the same doctor, same kind of thing. And we started building the business again. So I tell people I've actually retired 3 times. I in between the service, I went to Merrill Lynch and I did really well there, sold my book of business off, thought I was going to retire. It didn't work out. 9/11 happened. The military called me and said, hey, would you like to come back? We'd really like to have you. So I did that. By that time, I got enough years in that I went ahead and retired there, and I retired. And then I built the tax practice up to, there was 3 total locations towards the end and about 1,600 clients with tax and accounting. And I sold that off. And so I say I've retired 3 times. I failed all 3 times. So I think I'm done.
And now you're building the practice back up again. Talk a little bit about that, kind of where you're at and how you're doing that.
Yeah, we once we settled back down, we decided to build the practice back up again. And I got back up to about 300 to 400 clients pretty quick in that office. And then just 2.5 weeks ago, I guess, we bought a practice with about 850 clients. And we're actually looking at another group of clients to buy because the guy, his partner who was 80, had a quadruple bypass and isn't doing what he needs to do, or can't do what he wants to do. So we're going to buy some of his clients away from him also, probably prior to this tax season.
Well, that's 2 acquisitions, big off season for you here in the next 60 days.
Yeah.
You're a busy man. Are they similar clients or kind of how? What do you expect there from those folks, or how did you even meet them? I know you do other speaking stuff, and so I've seen you at tax home events and NATP and things like that. I know you're engaged in a few different things, but yeah, how did you get the word out about that and find other folks that wanted to sell their practices?
I put out the word to quite a few people, and then nothing was really coming back. So I started looking around some of the brokers, and I found the 850 practice actually through a broker. And it's funny because I guess they posted it and I contacted them like 2 hours later. Probably not the smartest thing to do, you know what I mean? But I didn't know how long it had been up for. And she was the practice is in my mom's hometown. So that kind of makes it, and only about 20 minutes from where I am. The other practice, actually, there's 2 others we're looking at. The one where the guy's 80 and he had a quadruple and his partner's stopping, so he needs to give her about half of his business. I've known him for quite a few years, met him through a tax event at some point, and I picked him up. And then the other guy is 74, and I knew him through the car business, but I was in the car business before I went in the Army. So we're talking 40 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's just getting 74. He says, I don't think I want to do it much anymore. Another family wants to. I want to know if I'd be interested. So
Yeah,
that's not on the radar for this year, but that may be next year's.
yeah. And what's got, in terms of scaling like you are, how'd you, a few years ago you were retiring, getting out of this. What got you into, hey, I want to make this bigger and buy other practices? Like, have you been doing things differently to scale, or kind of, is it, I don't know, different life stage, or kind of what's got you amped up to go grow the practice that way?
It's just kind of who I am. Every time I tell people I retired once or twice or 3 times or whatever, my wife just laughs and says that means he cut down to 40 hours a week when he says he retired.
Yeah.
I just stay busy all the time, and I like it. I like to be busy. I like to do stuff. And when we quit traveling, it was like, okay, now what am I going to do? I'm not going to sit here and stare at the four walls, and I don't want to sit around my house and just piddle around the house, that kind of stuff. And this is what I know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know how to scale up, and I've got a little advantage. My daughter was a stay-at-home mom. She's also an accountant. She's done work for years on and off. My brother, when I first retired, came into the tax practice, did a lot of tax stuff with me. He still does a lot of tax representation for some people, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then I've got another family member who was in the banking businesses. They wanted to kind of come in. So I had some excess capacity, and the beauty was none of them needed money. They didn't have to have a full-time job today. They were just coming in to do something because, like my brother, he's retired already. My daughter wants something to do now that her kids are old enough. They're finally going to school, and she's sitting around wondering what she wants to do. So that's kind of,
it's pretty unusual, but you got, everyone else has seen a shortage of available labor, and sounds like you got the bench stacked basically, which is great.
My wife,
she
goes, what about me?
That's right. Put her on the list.
She was a paralegal for DOJ for 26 years, and she's tired, and she doesn't want to completely quit. So she's been working pretty much full time, almost really. Just as long as I don't put her on a schedule, she's okay.
Exactly. I love it. Never keep her too busy on the road. And that, how then do you train those folks up? I'm just curious as to like onboarding kind of new staff in that way. I mean, obviously people that have a lot of professional experience, but how do you kind of walk them through that? I'm always fascinated by that, because it's like, I never figured that piece out when I was running the practice.
Well, I'm not sure I've got it figured out. And the funny thing is, with the 4 that I just talked about, there's so much different levels in the way that they do stuff. My brother, you just kind of give it to him and show him what you want him to do. And then you give him about 2 weeks to figure it out. Try and teach him and stuff like that, he's just going to get mad and frustrated, and it's over. You've got my daughter, who is so aggressive that you tell her that we're doing this, we're doing that, and her alpha personality takes over. The next thing, she's on the call with you an hour later telling you, hey, why aren't you doing it this way? And usually it's a better way. She's figured out a way to do something a little more efficient. My wife, she just wants to sit there and watch you do it one time, and then she wants you to watch her do it one time. So it's all kind of a different kind of thing. And my brother's remote and my daughter's remote. So that's been, something that I'm not real used to. I mean, you have to do a lot of it over Zoom, and you have to share screens. And the big thing is you have to teach them how to use Zoom on sharing their screen and being able to do stuff and talking them through it.
Okay, walk me through. Are you meeting with clients live, or what's that typically look like for you in terms of how you handle those clients?
I don't meet with a lot of clients live. I just never have. I usually set them up and we onboard them live if at all possible. There's been a few we haven't. I've traveled 3 and 4 hours to sit down with somebody and do it live. I prefer that. That's me. I just signed a couple of young guys, and they're like, well, can't we do this on Zoom? I said, I think we can, but I prefer to do it in person. And I think it's easier if we go through stuff. We needed to set up their QuickBooks. They hadn't been on QuickBooks before. They were using their rental place. And we had to get it all merged in. And we ended up spending almost a day, both of us sitting there on 2 computers, merging stuff and making sure it's coming over right and that kind of thing. We probably could have done it on Zoom, it sure wouldn't have been as good. And when I left, he looked at me and he said, "You know what? I'm glad you drove up."
And how do you do that then if you're scaling so much? Like how will that work for you then as you buy these other practices?
You know, that's one thing that I'm really, really debating on, to be quite honest. Um, the onboarding process is honestly going to be my biggest challenge by far. With products like Juno and stuff that they have, now I can, the volume and the capacity is not as much a problem. It's getting
Right.
the people on board. I've got 3 right now that we're waiting to get on board
Yep.
because it takes too much time, and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, onboard them and then not give them the level of service they should have.
And what does that onboarding look like for you, just out of curiosity? So when you say onboard, do you mean like go through a prior year return and meet with them, or kind of like how do you do that?
Yeah, we sit down and we usually get 2 years prior returns, and I have them send them to me first, and I go over them. Then I
Yep.
usually send them a list of questions off the return. And I'm talking, Schedule C at minimum, but a lot of them
Right.
are 1120Ss or 1065s. We really take the time to onboard like this.
Yep.
And we go through it, we look at stuff, we send them a list of questions that I have, stuff like that. And then at that point is when I want to meet with them. I want to get down, I want to sit with them, I want to talk to them. I really want to know what their business is. I'm not one who doesn't get into their business. I just
Yep.
I don't want to be that way. And I don't have to, so I don't. And it's amazing because I've had people, when we leave that first meeting that we had face to face, they'll tell me they've had an account for 5 or 10 years and I've already spent more time with them than their account. Now, the flip side is when I spend that time, I see there's a lot of errors and stuff that get taken out of the process.
Yeah.
And I don't spend near as much time with them the first year as I do if I skip that first 2 or 3 hour meeting that we have with getting everything lined up and going.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see as you get, because there's so many new clients for you this year, kind of how that changes and how you get, because even just the hours, it's like, I mean, take hundreds of clients and even spend 30 minutes with each of them, right? And it's like now you got 10% of your year or something, spent on those intro meetings, which would be. Now, today, are you getting a staff with those folks, or are you going to be running it, or bringing your own staff?
I'm bringing part of my own. There is one girl that's been there 19 years, and she's only 40, like 43 or 44. So she plans on staying.
Oh, that's great.
They also have a part-time person that comes in and helps during tax season.
Yep.
She works.
Okay, so you got a couple folks that can help.
Yeah, and they know the people.
Yeah.
This one has close to 200 Amish.
Oh, wow.
If there wasn't going to be one person there, I don't think I would have bought the practice because of that.
Would they have a lot of Schedule Fs then? Is that
there's 150 of them have Schedule Fs of the 200.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well you're going to be a busy man then doing all those Schedule Fs.
Well, a lot of them have Schedule C on the side also. They do construction and stuff like that now. So
yeah, double whammy there. That is amazing. There's some great tax breaks, though. I do feel like a good accountant when I get to a Schedule F, because I'm like, okay, now I can save you some money. Farms are awesome. You will reduce your taxes.
What's that old joke, Dave? When a farmer comes in to give you his taxes, you ask him, well, what do you want to pay? And then you get it there.
Kind of feels like that sometimes. Wild how that works. But that's great. And I know, so then you're working on like templates and stuff. That part of your onboard is probably getting them into the like your flow in terms of process. Is that right?
Yes, it very much is. Now, she actually had, the lady I bought this one from for her, Amish, had a Schedule F template already for them to put everything in.
Oh, great.
I don't know if you've ever had any of them, but they are great at record keeping and they keep a logbook for everything. The problem is it's 50 pages.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But she had them down to a 1-sheet page. Hey, put all of this in here. And then she spends about 10 minutes with them asking questions. Okay, now those 8 pigs you bought, what'd you do with them? Well, we ate 3. Well, you can't take those 3 then. That's the grocery store. But she's got that down to a pretty good process. So I was really lucky there when it came to the Schedule Fs.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's actually I think people undervalue sometimes how important that like upfront process is in terms of getting the right information in, especially when you're doing hundreds of returns, right? It's like, you can't go back and forth with people. It's going to just destroy your efficiency. Even said like a different way, especially on a quick return, it could be like an extra 30 minutes to go back and forth with somebody once or twice. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm starting to work and now I got to stop. And when I come back 4 days later and they respond to my question, I'm not going to remember where I was. Like it's easily 30 minutes any
Oh,
day of
yeah.
the week, basically, if you have one extra touch point. I got to write an email. I got to wait for a response. There's going to be a follow-up question on the response of like, and then they're only send me half of what I told them to send me, and so on and so forth. Yeah, are you using, how do you gather the information? Are you using, as I know you're a TaxStone person, are you using TaxStone for that typically?
I'm starting to. I started last
Yeah,
year on some of them. Of course, when we're talking Amish, it's either mail or they have to drop it off.
they'll bring it in. Yeah.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
that being said, that one advantage of that is they don't want to make the 2 or 3 trips back and forth to town on a horse. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
So they're real good about trying to get everything in one trip.
Right.
So
Alignment of incentives in that way. That's
right.
I've not had any Amish. Now I kind of want to have some Amish clients. That'd be fun to. It's like a whole different world. I'm always fascinated. I've got there's a Juno client. I know I've met so many firm owners. There's one that's like only does tattoo shops, and I'd like find it's like fascinating how different all these businesses are. And I just did general stuff, so I never got I didn't get the fun stories of like the different, your Amish people riding the horse over. It is fascinating how many different folks there are out there in the world. But yeah, that's great. And then are you, as you think about next year, what can you push on between now and tax season? Like I was kind of joking about this with somebody today where I was like, all right, we got 60 days here to like gather whatever we can try to improve for next year. Are there any particular things on your mind that you're like, all right, I've got to nail this for next year to make sure we have a good year?
I've got 2 big goals this year, and that's TaxDome and Juno.
Yeah.
I feel like if I can get those 2, if I can get TaxDome for a lot of it, and then if I can get Juno to integrate, like I know it can, if I can get it to where my system, and talking with you, and saying, have one person do that,
Yeah.
Several people can scan it in, but just have one person enter it from TaxDome to Juno. I think that's a big relief. To me, that, and if I can get those done this year, I don't think I'll have much worse of a tax year this year than I had last year. I'm going to have 3 times the people. So that's
yeah, that's right. No, I think you'll see a big step forward for sure. And will you have then, if people are bringing in documents, you're going to have your office scan it and upload it into TaxDome then? Is that kind of what that looks like for you?
The ones that bring it in, yes. Now, I do have quite a few clients that are starting to automatically upload it to TaxDome themselves. I'm actually going to give an incentive this year. I haven't decided the exact amount for my other clients that will upload it. And I've probably got 200 that would.
Yep.
I think a little incentive for this year, the first year using it, I think I can get them to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's a great, I've never thought about doing it that way, but no, it took us a lot of years to get everybody using the online portals. I think it literally took us like 4 or 5 years, actually. Not everybody, but like now I have at least 95% or something. You'll never really get everybody, but that actually my admins were super helpful in that. I was like, hey, look, if someone wants to get, because they could forget their password or whatever thing. And I'm like, just get on the phone with them. Just literally like, I will give you, like they were actually using Juno anyway. So it was taking them less time to like scan the documents because they used to rename them. Right. And like, break up the pages and they'd be like, oh, there's 2 copies of this W-2. So I'm going to delete the second page. They don't do any of that anymore because the system does it. But I was like, hey, with the time you're getting back there, can you just please make people use the portal? You know what I mean? I don't want them emailing me their documents again. Like just get on the phone with them or email them or whatever and just force them into it. And if sit on there, it was so funny because it's very counterintuitive, but I was like, even if they have to reset their password or something, like sit on the phone with them while they do it. And just because it's going to take 10 minutes, but then you'll actually get through it. And otherwise, especially with like, I like everybody else, I have a little bit older clientele probably, right? And so some of those folks are, they're fine if they have someone there to troubleshoot for them, but like they're not going to be able to do it on their own necessarily. But once they get it the first year, then they're rocking and rolling. And in fact, they actually liked it better. Although COVID was a big help for me because my timing, I just do that right when COVID hit, and then it was like, okay. Literally in San Francisco, it's like, you're not allowed to come in our office. So you're going to need to figure out this online thing. So that was a godsend for us, but has helped streamline everything else down the road for sure. Okay. So now that makes perfect sense. So, I think you've got your staff organized there for growth and your tech stack organized for growth. Did you just switch on to TaxDome or how long have you been using that?
We've been using it about 3 years.
I
guess this is the 4th year actually.
Yeah.
And what got us on it was we were full-time RV and we couldn't have any records. We couldn't get anything from people.
Right.
And
you don't want an RV full of tax files. driving around.
Well, and tracking stuff was so much more difficult. Before, we always had folders and we had like files where these are at this stage, these are this stage, and we just moved them from stage to stage, actually physically in our office.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't do that in an RV because if it's time to pack up and move, you have to pack all those files and it's pain. So
yeah, it's I remember going paperless myself, and it was very very nice
spot. I walked
my office just
there's like
big.
10 file cabinets, and I'm like, oh my, are you kidding me? So I go, well, what do you have stored electronically? And she goes, well, we have our Drake returns on electronically. And that's literal. I mean, that, and they do some support documents, but most of it is still in file folders.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Funny, it's that archaic. But you know what's funny about that I will say is and this is honestly, like any practice management, I think is a lot better if you can scan up front, right, as stuff's coming in. It's not that hard actually to go from having a lot of paper to paperless. I found I did not find it to be like it was, didn't ruin like a whole year of our time or anything like that.
Well, I think what kills most people is they go out and buy some little bitty Epson scanner or something like that, and they're trying to scanner, and we've got several of them really nice scanners that'll do 50 pages in less than a minute.
Yeah,
and your employees don't mind using it.
Right.
Because it works.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and they can run back. I don't know if you're meeting with folks. I used to meet with people and just hand the documents off, right, while we were catching up on what changed. And 5 minutes later, they've got everything scanned and in the system, which is great.
Yeah. And my hope is they'll have it scanned and in the system, and it'll already be starting to put into Drake, so that by the time I get done with the update, I can just start talking to them about their return. Yeah.
And then I guess what gets you excited in terms of buying these firms? I'm fascinated, growing the way you are. How do you think about the future of the profession? Like, as you see technology changing and all these things, a lot of folks are like, well, I don't know, maybe everyone's going to do TurboTax in the future, but clearly you're, excited about growing your business. What gets you motivated, there to, like, as you look into the future, what's exciting for you in the tax profession?
I think the one point people are missing about that is our cost per return could actually go down when you figure what you can do a tax return in compared to what somebody manually had to input that tax. It'll give you more face-to-face time with people, which, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's actually in person, or if it's just a cover sheet where you give them some pointers and you send it to them and they read it, I think it'll tie you to them closer. I mean, that's my feeling, because everybody thinks they're paying too much taxes. They all think they're paying way too much in taxes. I don't care if they've got 2 W-2s and they feel like they're missing something. So if you have a little something where you talk them through that kind of stuff and you walk them through it, it's amazing. I picked up probably 15 clients this year that are doing 150 to 200,000 in business, and they're one person service business, and they're not an S corp at all.
Cool. Maybe.
Yeah, they are, or they've got like 2 other employees or something. I've got a contractor did 350,000 last year on his side. He's got like 5 employees, and he's a sole proprietor.
Wow.
And
a lot of self-employment tax.
Yeah, he's had the same accountant for 10 years. And the guy's been telling him every once in a while, well, you need to do an S corp.
Yeah.
Well, he came over to me and was talking to me, and I said, well, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to get in here and we're going to fill up S corp paperwork. He goes, oh, my other account's been telling me that. And I said, you don't seem to understand. You're going to come in and do it. And he's like, well, and I said, no, I don't want you as a client if you're not going to aggressively be where we can fix stuff.
Yeah, my job is
showed up and we did it all.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and then, it's funny. I will give you one little thing there. I don't know if you do this. Do you remind people how much they saved by being an S corp after you did that? Because sometimes I'll tell them what they're going to save, but then you forget to tell them what they did save. And then a couple of years later, they're like, why am I filing 2 returns with you and paying you twice as much money? And I'm like, I've saved you $60,000 in the last 2 years. But I always, they don't know otherwise.
Right. I always do that the first year, the second year, and the 5th year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I skip some in there usually, unless they ask or something. But that 5th year is the reminder, because that's about the time, like you said, they start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm paying him, for an S corp filing when I was just doing a sole proprietor. I'm probably not even saving as much as his fee is. And in a lot of cases, now they've had to add payroll, which is an additional cost.
Yep. Yep. That's right.
On this guy, the projections we gave him, he's going to save about $17,000 after all the costs. And he was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. And I said,
yep.
Well, that's the reason your accountant was telling you to do it, but he didn't make me do it, So he's
Right.
ticked to death that somebody's telling him you've got to do this.
No doubt. I mean, that's it's funny. Because you mentioned the part about like having more time face to face with folks, and I say the same thing to people, which is kind of AI is going to do like the basic data entry stuff, right? So it's actually going to make the job more human because the human parts of the job are harder for AI to do, like sitting and talking with a client. But I love the example you just gave because I actually think like that is the part of the profession that's not going to go away, which is that this guy for one reason or another either didn't believe he was going to save that much money or like, something, because most people for 17 grand, they're going to do it if they really think it's true. Or maybe he thought it was a lot of work or something like that. Right.
Right.
So for one reason or another, like he was not convinced even by another human, let alone by like an AI prompt that says like, we think you should do the following 3 things. And they're like, yeah, right. I'm not going to do all that. It sounds like a lot of work. And you're probably trying to upsell me on something, right? Or whatever it might be. And
Right.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, no, the human element's not going away. The job's going to get more human. And those things are, best done by a human. Like it's easier to sit in front of a human and convince them to do something that's going to cost them extra time. If it's person to person and you can say like, hey, I've done this with a bunch of other clients and like, it's not just made up numbers. You're actually going to save this next year. That can be more convincing basically than an AI system, right? Which is why I think that ideally in the future, this job gets more human and you're actually sitting down with more of your clients, not fewer, and having that face-to-face time. But, and the thing that goes away is actually like the data entry and then double and triple checking like that W-2 to make sure you didn't type in any of the numbers wrong.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the AI is we're just the tip of it. It's going to compare the last 3 returns and say, hey, why didn't you do this? What about this? And what about
exactly? Yep.
And I think that's coming real quick.
Yep. I would imagine we might even have it before this next tax season. And my engineers will love that when I promise things like that. But no, we actually will. That's coming actually even next week. Actually, we have a small release on that. It's like you're telling the future here, Rocky. Yeah. But I know we're working on that. It's funny because it's like you could give so much information that the bigger challenge is like, how do we like bring people along for this journey? Because what you don't want, I mean, we can literally do like a 60-page report on every single tax return of like all the different tax strategies and what works and what doesn't and rank them. And I'm like, guys, this is too much. You cannot go from where we are lucky to have a 30-minute conversation with somebody about 3 bullet points to 60 pages. Like we can't do that. Clients aren't ready for it. Accountants aren't ready for it. I'm like, we gotta pull this thing back a little bit and give them like, really, really, good insights, and they have to be right. But they've also got to be summarized. Like it's just the reality. Because I said, I gave them the example of an S corp. I'm like, it might take me 2 years, maybe 3, to convince somebody to do an S corp. I've gotten better at it, like you have, where I'm like, no, you really need to do this. Like I'm going to force you to do this, and I'm going to literally like, I know I got a lawyer that can do it for $800 and we'll get you started right now. Just because I know if they walk out of that office and don't agree to doing it, they're not going to do it later in the year. You know what I mean? So it's like now or never. But even with that, so often you're like, well, here's 3 tax savings ideas, and they don't do any of them. And then they come back next year and then they're mad about their bill next year. And maybe one of those years they're actually going to go and do it. But it takes time, right, to drive behavior change. Like humans are better at driving behavior change than AI systems will be anytime soon. It would be my guess. Oh, and the other thing too on that is I always say to people, like, the best AI systems are 97 or 98% accurate. They can score about that on the CPA exam. That's incredible. That's better than I scored on the CPA exam. But that being said, it's not 100% accurate. So you do need a professional to look at it and make sure something crazy isn't happening, which is why we're going to work right alongside. I think you said like the tip of the spear or whatever. That is very true.
Right.
Like the human is still going to be working right there. And by the way, like maybe there's an AI accountant working for them, but they're not going to be the senior one in the firm. They're going to be the one doing all the grunt work basically first. And then as they do more of the senior work, even with review and things like that, they're not going to be meeting the clients, so like the really senior stuff stays there. And to be honest, they're probably the best parts of the job, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. I've never been the data entry guy or that kind of stuff. I've always been the guy that talked to the client.
Yeah. Exactly.
I know that's kind of outside the norm for accountants, to be quite honest, but I'm the guy.
Oh yeah, very much so.
My wife still gets frustrated with me because probably every client I've got that's, I don't want to say my top 50 clients, let's say that.
Yep.
I'm in their office at least once a year. And lots of times 3-4 times a year that I just stop by just to visit with, see what their business is doing and stuff. And it just freaks them out. When you walk in, they're like, what did I forget? What's going on? And it's like, no, I'm just here to see you.
Yep. I love it. I love it. It's a real human touch. Perfect. Yeah. What else? What would you say to firm owners who are like, growing and talk to people all the time that are trying to automate and grow? What advice would you kind of give to those folks in that position as somebody who's growing quickly?
No matter what you do, it's going to scare you to death. And you're going to be so afraid that you're going to mess something up and you're going to screw up some client stuff and all of that. And you are just accept you're going to do it. I mean, it's going to happen. You're going to not handle a client correctly like you should because of the growth and stuff. But go back and tell the client, hey, you know what? I screwed this up, buddy. I'm sorry. Look, you know how I was growing and stuff like that, and I went a little too fast. I messed yours up a little bit. I didn't touch you like I said I was going to and stuff.
Yeah,
but I'm going to fix that. And we're going to get it fixed. And I've had clients or like they can't believe that I would go to them and say that I messed it up. I'm sorry. It's just you kind of fell through the cracks kind of deal. They said I never seen anybody do that. And
I'm with you. And what's funny too that I'll say, because I've made mistakes. I mean, it's so funny to say this. I feel bad saying this on a recorded line. I've made mistakes on tax returns, and you think like that's a hilariously obvious thing to say, but I actually feel bad even saying that out loud. But
right,
because we don't talk about that much as a profession, but you're going to. I mean, it's like there's 100,000 points of data on my tax returns every year between my different clients. Like I'm probably going to mess up a couple of those that we don't catch for some reason. And PTE's made that even more. I had one a few weeks ago that's like PTE's made that even more complicated because like they pay through the business and they don't put it in their personal organizer. And then it's like, which I get that because they don't even know what PTE is. And so, but then you can forget it. And if you forget it, you can't amend for it. And so, no question, you're going to make mistakes. And like, that relationship, honestly, what I was just thinking when I was dealing with this issue is, if you got a human touch with that person, they're more likely to be forgiving about that. And not that honestly, it's like most of the stuff you can amend for, you can do, for abatement or whatever it might be. But it's more just the stress of the thing, right? And how's that person going to respond? And like, and it is funny. I was telling my team this the other day we were talking about reviewer trying to find mistakes. And I was like, guys, we live in fear of these mistakes, right? Because we have a license and we're operating at the, like if the California Board of Accountancy decides I'm not a good accountant, like I could have no job tomorrow, right? That's not true in every profession. And not that that's likely. I think it's extremely unlikely. However, it is like in the back of your head somewhere that you're just like, oh my gosh, if I make some horrible mistake, and like, so I like operate on the goodwill of my clients and the Board of Accountancy in whatever state, right? It's like they could just take that away tomorrow. But not that that's likely to happen if you're doing good work and whatever. I've done thousands of correct returns, so I can point at that if I ever have a big mistake. But it is nonetheless like in the back of your head where you're just like, I can't make mistakes. I'm not allowed to make mistakes ever, and I better get everything perfect, which has led to a lot of inefficiency. Honestly, it's part of why we double and triple check everything.
Right. I mean, that's 100% of it. And if, I go back to the old saying that says, if you're not making a mistake, you're not doing anything. And now you're making the biggest mistake of all.
Yep.
So,
that's true of our profession in many ways, right? It's, I think it's starting to change. I talk to a lot of people that are like you, really have a growth mindset about kind of where this goes. But I don't know that that's always been the standard for the profession, right? And like you said, even the other thing I'll say is that I'm people oriented, but I have a hard time. Like I do need to encapsulate, like I do like short meetings with clients and I'm pretty like, even back when I was doing them in person, my admin would like come in at 30 minutes and be like, hey, you're at time, like, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm not totally done yet. But at least I was actually doing that to set the tone for the client, where then the client's like, okay, well, let's just take 5 more minutes, as opposed to sometimes taking like 90 minutes to go through stuff. Because I will sit there. I enjoy it. So I'll sit there and talk with them. She's like, Dave, you got 5 returns you got to do today. Get out of here right now and go back to work. But I always enjoyed that and hope that I get to spend more time doing that, honestly, in the future as part of a job. It's better than just sitting there looking at the numbers for, the 10th hour of the day. I love it. Well, I know you're on vacation. I appreciate you taking the time. Yeah. Any closing thoughts there for people that are listening in terms of, your experience or learnings?
Just do it. I mean, I know that's kind of get to be cliche and all that anymore, but
Yep.
the only regrets I've ever had in life is when I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I've done stuff and messed it up and been horrible at it, but I never really had a problem with it, and I never regretted it unless I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
No
Looks
problem.
like a gorgeous day out there. I'll let you get back to your.
Somebody else say hi to you here.
Oh my goodness! Yes.
He's been up here just beating me up because he can hear your voice and stuff, and he's like trying to.
I got to meet him in Houston too.
Yeah. So
it's been very good. Well, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. Looks like he needs a walk. It's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, the wife's been out walking him while we've been sitting here. So he's pretty good.
Yeah. I love it. Well,
he was wanting to find you.
Well, enjoy the Woodard conference and the rest of the day too, and enjoy the weather down there.